Hello guys, welcome to Test Drive Incorporated, and today I will show you the only truly Polish car, which is Syrena 105. Syrena 105 was in production from 1972, but of course it was the successor of models 104, 103, 2, 1 and 100. The Syrena 100 was in production from 1957, so 26 years passed from the start to the end of the production. Throughout the production there were not many differences really, despite the main change of the engine, because the Syrena 100, 101, 102 and 103 was delivered with only two-cylinder and 27 horsepower. Wow, that's a lot. But from 1966, along with the 104 model, the three-cylinder engine was introduced. So now we have 40 horsepower and 0.8 liter engine. Of course, it's very outdated two-stroke engine, so you have to not only put gas but also oil in this particular hole. The transmission of this car is of course 4-speed manual, but you switch the gears near the steering wheel, so it is not on the floor. Of course, the mechanism is far from perfect, so you have to be really experienced with it. When you look at this car, you can clearly tell that the body style is outdated even for 1977. So it is 20 years after the premiere of the car, and the body almost not changed at all. And here the short history lesson. The country was simply destroyed by the German and Russian invaders after the Second World War. So it wasn't easy for Polish people to create simply anything after that time. It's also worth adding that after the Second World War, we as Poland were under communists from Russia, and the times were difficult. In 1948, people from Poland started to talk with Fiat to get some license and start to produce some kind of decent cars, but Stalin simply denied it. He didn't want Poland to be a country with some cars. The situation a little bit changed in 1953, so citizens in Poland started to think about their own car. The Polish engineers were really ambitious about the future car, but always, as in communism, it wasn't easy. The Syrena supposed to be a modern car with 4-stroke engine and self-supportive bodies. Of course, they couldn't make it, so you see this now. Of course, when you look under the hood, it's really funny because there is plenty of room in here and we have only a little engine, and also the technology is outdated even for the year of production of the car. And I mean the first model, Syrena 100 in 1957. So the technology is from pre-Second World War times. Of course, we have also a pretty decent trunk. There is kind of a lot of space, especially for this size car. And you can see also that I simply entered the trunk. The interior of this car was a little bit changed during the process of restoration. So now we have genuine leather not only on the seats but also on the sides, and also really nice materials just on the floor. In the original, it was simply some kind of gum and just cloth seats, of course. Talking about the equipment here is really hard because there is simply nothing here. Just the wipers, the headlights, you can turn on and turn off your headlights, and 3 strange pieces with no marks on it. So first from the right is the ventilation system, but you know, the ventilation is like this. When you drive, just one thing opens and let the air flow through the car, so that's it. It doesn't work when you don't drive. This in the middle is a heating adjustment, and the more you pull this button, the higher temperature you get. And by the way, this is not precise mechanism. So first to the left is the choke system. It's important when the engine is just cold and you haven't been driving yet. Of course, you should drive a lot more when it's the winter time and it takes time for the engine to get the proper temperature. Here we have the speedometer and controls of battery and turn signal. Of course, you should turn it on manually, like in regular cars, but also it's necessary to turn it off, also manually. Here we have our stick shift, and it is really close to the huge steering wheel, which is very thin and really big. This is done for the reason, I think, because of course you don't have power assisted steering here, so the more strength you have, the better will be your handling. And it's really hard to operate it on a parking slot. You have to be a really tough guy. Of course, your legs should also be really strong because there's also no brake assist. So the more strength you have in your legs, the quicker you will stop the car. Another thing that is really unusual and done not so well is the fact that the seat line is not in the place of steering wheel and pedals. So you should change your position a little bit. Not straight, but something like this. It's not comfortable at all. What is unusual too, near the pedals you have the light switch. The next special thing about this car is the fact that despite the car is very little and narrow kinda, there is simply a lot of room in here, and this is connected with the absence of central tunnel here with gearbox and stuff, so you can easily switch your seat. What is also interesting, there's a lot of room on the back seat. It looks like there is simply no room in here, but you have the seat based on springs, so you just dive here in the back. And the same situation is here. This seat is pretty comfortable, despite very uncomfortable metal element, so your backbone will suffer. Dobra. Of course, you also have the original radio here, but in fact it's not plugged in, but it works. Before the restoration process, it just worked very well. And here's your handbrake. That's cool. Last very funny element of this car, when you want to get some liquid on the windshield, you have to push this element, and it's simply like a toy for the children. And now I will show you some books, really decent books about this car, how to use it, how to fix it, because, you know, the times were strange and a little bit difficult, so you have to be able to fix the car in any situation, even on the road when you drive in the snow, for example. So I'm driving the Syrena car and fixing the Syrena. So all the mechanical parts are really simple here, and they require to be serviced very frequently. Okay, so driving the Syrena 105. The first thing you can see and hear is the fact that here it's really noisy, and it's of course connected with the engine. It's very loud, and the longest distance I've driven in this car was like 300 miles or something, and it was like 700 miles in the regular car. Talking about how I was exhausted, simply because, you know, this noise is really annoying when you do a big road trip. Maybe you watched my video with Corvette C5, and the only factor that connects those two cars, the Corvette and Syrena, is the leaf springs. The leaf springs, you know, the same situation when you drive on a bumpy road. The reaction is quite strange in the car. The back of the car is moving simply from left to right and from right to left, and it's really not very comfortable feeling. Definitely not the car to drive it fast. 120 kilometers per hour, that's my personal best, and this is the feeling similar to flying in a jet during turbulences. That's hilarious. Okay, so this is not very cool car to operate it in a city, because, you know, you don't have any kind of assists here, so you don't have anything like power steering or something like this. Everything is manual. But the times when this car was new, the times were completely different in Poland. Almost no one had a personal car, so this car was in fact a luxury item, you know. Okay, driving in a corner. Okay, when the road is not bumpy, it's not that bad, I can say. But of course there is no comparison between this and Mercedes-Benz or something like this from 1977. The feeling is exactly like the car is pre-World War II. When you open the windows, it's really smelly here. You can feel the smell of gasoline, so it's better not to open the windows. Better to use the ventilation system. When you drive it on the highway, you can get something between 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers and 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. Of course, depending on a style of driving, so that's the way it is. I would rather not be forced to drive it as a daily car, and I can only imagine the feeling when the whole family was driving to the seaside or something like many kilometers, and in the middle of the trip the car broke down, and it was necessary to fix it right now, right here on the road. You know, not a very pleasant feeling, I consider. Wow, so we are here now, and it stopped. There is a quiet place, to be honest, right now. But of course, personally, I love this car. This is one and only. So every single trip is kind of adventure here, because you know, everything may happen. Okay, so the exterior design is for 1977 a little bit, maybe not a little bit, really outdated. But for me, the car is simply beautiful, and maybe this is not objective opinion, but it's mine, and I just love it. I give 8 out of 10. The interior design, you know, there's nothing special here, and the materials in the original vision of the interior are rather poor, so it gets 3 out of 10. The equipment is so funny. In fact, there's no equipment, simply the radio, and also you can turn on your wipers and turn on your lights, and you have a wheel and a gearbox, and you can open the window in 2 ways. Wow. And that's pretty much it. So it gets only 2 out of 10. Power. The power for 1977 small European car is not that bad. 40 horsepower, 0.8 liter. Of course, the two-stroke engine was really outdated, even for the 1977. But the power is kinda okay, and it gets 4.5. The driving experience is also not that bad, and it gets 4.5 too. The car reacts to the moves of steering wheel. It's rather predictable, and even that the brakes are with no assistance, it all just works. Comfort should be also not that bad, so it's supposed to be 4, but I have to give it 3.5 because, you know, there's a terrible smell of gasoline and oil in here when you open the window, and the noise of the engine and all that stuff that is under the hood is just impossible. You know, it's really hard to drive it like even 200 miles. You can be really exhausted. Practicality for 1977 for the European car, that was kind of okay. Even if the car is really narrow, there's kind of plenty of room inside, and the trunk is also surprisingly spacious, so it can get 6 out of 10. For this moment here in Poland, being an owner of this car is really outstanding, because everyone knows it, and it gets more attention than Ferrari, Porsche, and different other brands. Reliability, you know, the car was not reliable even half year after leaving the production line, and it gets only 2 out of 10. There were a lot of situations when the car simply stopped on the road and something just broke, and seriously, it was not rare. The people have been driving this with a lot of tools and parts in the trunk, so it shows a lot. 2 out of 10. Price/quality, you know, the quality isn't nowadays a proper word here. The car is becoming more and more rare, so it's almost impossible to meet this car on a even Polish road, because outside of Poland it's 1000 times harder. But the prices are bigger and bigger, and this trend will remain because the car is becoming older and older, and there are fewer and fewer of those cars at the same time, so the value will definitely increase, and now it's becoming expensive, but I think this is the last moment to buy one for a reasonable price. All in all, 6 out of 10. That's all for today. Cheers, guys.